Deng Xiaoping put the Gang of Four on trial for the fact that they conducted the Cultural Revolution. They were sent to prison. There was a huge effort to repudiate Stalin, some of which was a little bit weird, but whatever. I mean, in the USSR, the socialist countries of the world have largely denounced crimes that took place within them. And furthermore, again, you're quibbling with me about whether or not people died, Native Americans were slaughtered. You're quibbling with me about whether the transatlantic slave trade was bad. You said one thing that is just...
No.
I'm sorry, let me finish. I did not interrupt you. You don't interrupt me. Okay, let me finish. You will let me finish. You will let me finish. You will let me finish.
Pass without... I never, ever said or implied that it was not bad. I never said that. So please,
okay, so
for the love of
I could swear I heard some quibbling. I heard you say that. I heard you say that.
Unbelievably horrible.
Okay. Regardless.
No, it's not regardless, man.
No. I mean, no.
You made a mistake. You owe me an apology.
No, you said that that blacks sold other blacks into slavery. Why does that matter? Does that make slavery okay just because somebody else did it? You quibbled about the immorality of slavery. You quibbled about the immorality of slavery. You said that it was only you gave a number that you said was low. You quibbled about it. Well, people can listen to the tape and decide for themselves. People can listen to the tape and decide for themselves. You
characterized me as being pro-slavery or at least not anti-slavery. Come on, man, that's not fair.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know that you don't believe in slavery. I don't either. Now, the British Empire...
so you retract what you just said about me.
I'll listen to the tape afterwards and see. I'll listen to the tape afterwards and see what you actually said and what you didn't say. I must have heard you wrong.
What you said. I don't know how we're having a debate here.
Okay, all right. You said that the British Empire ended slavery around the world. I've got news for you. The British Empire worked very hard to preserve slavery in the United States. So much so that the Russians were forced to send their navy to New York harbors to protect it. There was a real possibility that the British would intervene to keep the flow of cheap cotton from the plantations of the South coming in. The British Empire, with its textile mills, was the primary partner. When was this?
I'm
sorry, may I finish my statement?
What time frame was this in?
We're talking about the 1800s, and it was.
So I was talking about the mid-19th century. So why on earth are you going 70 years off my timeline?
We were abolishing slavery in the United States, and the British were trying to intervene and keep slavery in effect. And thank goodness, Russia sent their navy to protect New York's harbor to enable Lincoln to defeat the slaveholders. Karl Marx organized strikes among textile workers to refuse to work with cotton picked by slaves. It was Marxists who led the struggle against slavery. Read about August Willich. He was a member of the Communist International, a German-born Marxist. He was in the United States. He rose up to the rank of brigadier general in the U.S. Army defeating slavery, right? Joseph Wedemeyer, a leader of the Communist International. He led the Ohio 9th Regiment, and they protected St. Louis and were decorated for their heroic efforts to defeat slavery. Meanwhile, the British very much wanted to keep intact the plantation system so they could get cheap cotton for their textile industry. So that's just a complete misrepresentation.
Wait, what are you talking about here? I mean, good Lord, you're confused. Okay, so you were talking about the 18th century with regards to the British trying to preserve slavery in America, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know that's, 100 years before Marx became popular?
No, Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848.
I know, but when he became popular and had real influence and effect, right? It didn't happen right away, right?
No, I think the International Working Men's Association was quite popular. Like I said, there was a brigadier general in the Union Army during the Civil War who was one of them. They were quite influential during their time.
I get all of that. But you're taking the British from... When in the 18th century are you talking about the British preserving...
I'm talking about during the U.S. Civil War, when we were trying to abolish slavery, and the British worked against our efforts here in the United States.
No, Civil War... Okay, 18th century is the 1700s, Civil War was in the 1800s, so what are you talking about here?
I'm talking about from 1860 to 1865, when the United States was having a civil war.
The British didn't have dominion over America. America was already a separate country.
Yes, the British tried to intervene on behalf of the slaveholders.
When the British were trying to preserve slavery in America, when in the 18th century? That's the 1700s, right?
No, I'm talking about the 1860s. I'm talking about the U.S. Civil War, when they tried to intervene on behalf of the slaveholders, and Russia sent its navy to protect our harbors and keep the British out of the war, essentially.
Do you accept that the British Navy intercepted slave ships and freed slaves, and that Britain spent a vast amount of treasure buying up and freeing the slaves in the British Empire?
I'm sure things like that went on.
Wait, you don't know that?
I'd have to look. I'd have to do the research, but I believe you.
Wait,
it sounds right.
Hang on. You claim to be talking all about the history of slavery.
Yes.
And I'm kind of curious if you ever read anything.
I don't trust you.
That
I don't trust you. Somebody who quibbles over the killing of Native Americans and says they all died from disease. I'm going to have to look it up. I don't trust Stefan Molyneux. Guilty as charged. I don't trust Stefan Molyneux.
Let me finish. Okay, there we go. All right. So it's pretty common knowledge for anyone who has studied anything to do with the history of labor, the history of slavery, and so on. And this was posted recently by Rahim Kassam. In 1833, Britain used 40% of its national budget to buy freedom for all slaves in the empire. I'm going to read that again because, again, I guess you have never read about any of this, which means I guess you're just reading.
Actually, I've heard you say
communist stuff, but
I've heard you say it in the lead up to this debate.
Almost done.
Okay.
Almost done. There you go. In 1833, Britain used 40% of its national budget to buy freedom for all slaves in the empire. Britain borrowed such a large sum of money for the Slavery Abolition Act that it wasn't paid off until 2015. This means that living British citizens helped pay for the ending of the slave trade with their taxes. Now that is really quite a powerful thing, and I'm really kind of surprised, I suppose, that, I mean, I know about the communist stuff. I actually just read through the Communist Manifesto with my daughter. I've taken entire classes on communism and Marxism and so on. But it seems like you've not read anything except all of this really anti-British or anti-British Empire stuff. It may be worth expanding your reading into stuff that is maybe a little surprising to you.
Real quick, I want you to have a chance to respond, Caleb, but just a heads up for you guys. We've got about a little less than 10 minutes left from what we scheduled. If you guys want to go over, that's up to you two. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up.
I don't want to go over. Okay. Do we want me to respond and then we do our closing, or how do we want to do it?
No, let's just do our closing. If you haven't studied this, it's kind of unfair.
Let's do it. All right. Do you want to go first or me?
Hold on. No, I think it'd be good. Caleb, respond to this, and then we'll do closing points between the two of you.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. If you said you were familiar with the history of slavery and with the history of communism, and you were unsure of the fact that Marxists played a role in defeating slavery in the United States, I don't know how you can claim to be the authority there. Karl Marx, maybe you're not aware of this, or maybe you are, he was actually the London correspondent for the Republican Party newspaper of New York City. He wrote articles praising Lincoln. His followers in the United States, the Working Men's Party, were very, very key in organizing the struggle to defeat slavery. And furthermore, during our Civil War, the British Empire worked very hard to help the Confederacy. And that's a fact. So I think that flies in the face. You're pointing to a lot of other things. And you asked me, had I ever heard this about the British Empire? I've heard it from you. In the lead up to this debate, I saw it all over the internet. And I found a number of articles debunking your claim in detail and saying that, well, they did what you said, and then they went back on it and saying other things. I'm not the expert. I'm not going to speak on that. But I don't trust you. I'm not going to just take your word for things like this, especially since you went on a tirade telling me I'm anti-white. So that's my response.